I'll call the meeting of the Executive Finance Committee meeting to order at 3:15. Councilor Soap, you give our invitation, please.
Please stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, Creator of all things, we thank you for this day you've given us, Lord. We thank you for this rain that you've sent our way, Lord. We just pray that you will guide us and direct us in this meeting, Lord. We appreciate all the constituents and all the parties involved that have showed up here today, Lord. Just be with us as we make these decisions, have these discussions. Be with our people, Lord. Just pray that you bring joy to their hearts, bring them love, and just help them to see the better things in life. I just thank you for all the blessings you've given us. Be with our soldiers overseas. Be with our children, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Roll call, please.
Jack Baker,
Here.
Cherokee Watts, Alani, Bill England, Bill John Baker,
Here.
Harley Buzzard, Julia Coates, here. Bradley Cobb, Joe Crittenden,
Here.
Jody Fishinghawk, here. Meredith Rayleigh, here. Janelle Fulbright, here. Von Garvin, Chuck Hoskin Jr., China Gloria Jordan, present. Curtis Snell, Chris Suck,
Here.
Kara Callan Watts, Alani, David Thornton. We do have a quorum.
Here.
Okay. We do have a quorum. I would entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the September
So moved.
for the budget hearings in the regular session. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, at this
Yes.
time, looking around the room, we've got several folks here, and I think they're most interested in, under old business, items 1, 2. I'd like to move those immediately, and I would, at the same time, like to amend the agenda for a resolution that I emailed out that calls for CNB and CNE, Cherokee Nation Entertainment, to construct the new casino and everything about the Ramona property, 100% tear road.
That'll be
Item,
item 5 under new business.
if that's where you want it.
Yes. Okay. The motion's been made and seconded to move old business items 1 and 2 to immediately, and then also add the additional Carroll amendment for the one casino. It's item 5.
Division, motion to move versus the motion to add.
Okay. So the revision's been called for the 2 items.
Can you explain that to me? I'm confused. I wasn't paying attention.
Todd. Mr. Hembry. Okay, the motion's actually, she made the motion to split his motion to divide it into 2.
What will be the 2 different motions? I mean, what will be the 2 different ways? How do you want to divide it?
Motion to move the 2 items, and then there's a motion to add an item.
What's the item we want to add?
The 100% tear road on the Ramona project.
Okay. First we'll act on amending the agenda to add items 1 and 2 under old business to immediately following to now. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next, we'll vote on amending the agenda, adding the item number 5 under new business on the Winona Casino property.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a quick clarification to amend the agenda for this. It pretty much says that we've got, a casino that we're building. It's going to be constructed of buildings that we move in, but there's concrete work, curb and gutter, landscaping, things that our Carroll vendors can easily achieve in a timely and a cost-efficient manner. And
One clarification is that this is proposed.
That's right.
It has not been
That's right.
approved by the boards of C&B or C&E. as of this time.
That's true. This is from the council to show that their will is that it be done that way.
Providing that they approve it. Providing that they approve the building of the casino, which has not been done.
Okay.
Is this about the merits of the act, or is this about amending the agenda?
Just
to
Yeah,
add
what
the
it
act?
is, yeah.
Which casino were we talking about?
So is there a second?
I'm
Sorry about that, sorry.
So is there,
I'll second.
okay. So the motion is to amend the agenda to add item number 5. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
And roll call, please.
Jody Fishinghawk,
Yes.
Meredith Braley,
What was the motion?
To amend the agenda to Bill John's,
Oh, okay, yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
No.
Don Garvin,
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
China Glory Jordan,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
Chris Soap,
No.
David Thornton,
Yes.
Kara Kellen Watts,
No.
Bill England,
No.
Bill John Baker,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
no.
Harley Buzzard,
No.
Julia Coates, Bradley Cobb,
No.
Joe Crittenden.
Yes.
We have 8 yes and 9 no.
Okay. So the motion failed. The agenda will not be amended to add that today. Okay. Next, we have item 1 under old business. Councilor Fishinghawk.
I move to approve item 1 and 2 in toto.
Second.
Okay, motion made to
With a
approve
friendly amendment. I have a friendly
items 1
amendment.
and 2. Okay.
With a friendly amendment. Would you accept on, section 9B, putting the line at the end of the first sentence, which is the same line that's at the end of section 10B, if there are 3 or more tarot vendors in that field.
Like that.
Clarification, are you referring to item 1 or item 2?
1.
Item 1.
Okay.
Item 1, section 9B would have an added line, which is an identical line that's shown in section 10B. We would add it at the end of the first sentence, if there are 3 or more tarot vendors in that field. And that's per a discussion with Mr. Stewart.
Okay. So the motion's been made and the friendly amendment's been made and approved. Okay. Any discussion? Councilor Watts.
I'd like to make a motion to table because item number 3 would make both of these moot. So it's an alternate to the tarot.
Second.
Okay, the motion been made and seconded to table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Roll call.
Point of clarification. We're wanting to substitute Administrative Act, the one that she submitted, with the one that we've been working on.
This is only a motion to table items 1 and 2.
Okay.
Which is no discussion.
Julia Coates,
Yes.
Bradley Cobb,
Yes.
Joe Crittenden,
No.
Jody Fishinghawk,
No.
Meredith Braley,
Me?
Yes.
Motion to table, is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright. Yes. Don Garvin,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
No.
China Glory Jordan,
No.
Curtis Snell,
No.
Chris Soap,
Yes.
David Thornton,
No.
Kara Kellen Watts,
Yes.
Bill England,
Yes.
Bill John Baker,
No.
Jack Baker,
Yes.
Harley Buzzard.
Yes.
We have 10 yes and 7 no.
Okay. Items 1 and 2 are tabled. Councilor Watts.
Thank you. I'm excited to see so many tarot vendors apparently here about our legislation, because I know I've worked on this for 6 years, and this is the most we've had even when we had a public hearing. And that was like our first public hearing since, I think Diane Kelly said the 60s or 70s, the Cherokee Nation. So I was excited to help lead that effort and be part of that effort. And so it's good that everybody's here. So I'd like to offer to amend the agenda and consider item 3, which is the tarot language that I've worked with a lot of people on this council and the administration, and I would like to correct. It's not the administration's Tarot Act. It is my act, Jack Baker's Act, and Buell England's Act, and anyone else who would like to co-sponsor it that would strengthen our tarot laws for Indian preference and make it applicable to the Cherokee Nation and its entities. So I'd like to make a motion to immediately consider that item.
So the motion's been made to amend the agenda to move item 3, consider immediately under old business. Okay. Any discussion? Councilor Fisher.
I'd like to offer a friendly amendment. Councilor Karen Lott sent out this letter, and it was talking about part of it. It says the entities are not included in the definition by employer. Instead, in the Tarot Act applies to Cherokee Nation and the entities as stated in Section 8 on
Excuse me,
page 7.
Councilor, does this have to do with,
clarification. Yes.
for the amending
discussion
the
of
agenda?
that.
This is just amending the agenda.
Okay. I'll pass.
Clarification.
Yes.
Now, are we talking about this act here, Jack? The one that says the author is Melanie Nye and the sponsors will be named later? Is that the one that we're talking about?
Yes.
That is not administration, but it was written and authored by Melanie Nye and then started hunting sponsors. Thank you.
Point of order, can we accept acts that don't have a sponsor from the council? I thought we went through this.
But it does have.
Point of information, if you look at the resolution form, which is in your book, which you've had for almost 2 weeks, it states that we are all 3 sponsors.
Excuse me, right now it's amending the agenda.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate getting
Did I
us
have a
back on
second on
track.
amending the agenda?
Buell did.
Okay. Any further discussion on amending the agenda only? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Roll call.
Okay, roll call.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
No.
Tina Gloria Jordan,
No.
Curtis Snell,
No.
Chris Sup,
Yes.
David Thornton,
No.
Tara Cowan Watts,
Yes.
Buell England,
Yes.
Bill John Baker,
No.
Jack Baker,
Yes.
Harley Buzzard,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
Yes.
Bradley Cobb,
Yes.
Joe Crittenden,
No.
Jody Fishingham,
No.
Meredith Fraley, yes, Janelle Fulbright.
Yes.
Ten yes and 7 no.
10 yes, 7 no. So at this time we will consider item number 3 listed under old business.
Motion table.
So the motion is made and seconded to table. So all those in favor?
May I say something,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Hembry.
If this was a motion to amend the agenda, that would require a 2/3 vote
Right.
in the affirmative.
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
He is
Yes.
correct.
Yes. Okay. Yes, that is correct. So the motion did fail. I'm sorry. Because it would,
Okay. Then I'd like to make a motion.
Point of clarification, I believe point of order in that we're back to the orders of the day.
We're
would
back
be
to the orders of the day.
reports, correct?
Yes.
So we'll make everybody wait now. Thank you.
okay. So now we're at reports, and the treasurer's report, Ms. Ketcher, please.
Good afternoon, council.
Good afternoon.
You have my written report. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer those.
Yes, Councilor Fishingham.
Yes, we had discussed back in, I do believe it was May of this year, of you all putting all the winning bids on the website.
Yes.
Have you been there and looked at it lately?
Actually, I haven't been out there lately, but yes, we are posting those out there. I know that we ran into some technical difficulties on that website, but that is our policy to go ahead and post those out there.
Okay, can you take a look at it, because it's not being done.
Okay, I will look into that.
Mr.
Chairman,
It was very
Yes.
hard to hear down here with all the noise. Can we
Okay.
limit discussion besides what's here at the table?
Yes,
Thank you.
Mr.
yes.
Chairman?
Please, no discussion other than who's been recognized.
I can't hear well.
Mr. Chairman, if I could offer something to the counselor's question as well, in addition.
Okay. It's fine.
The Nation had been posting the bid awards on the website. CNE's postings, though, had not started until last week, is my understanding, so we may not have started seeing those postings until more recently.
Okay.
I'd like to go down on record, I think this was talked about back in May, and to be honest, I don't mean to be argumentative, but when somebody tells me they're going to do something in May, I figure by October? Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Ms. Catcher? Okay, thank you. Next is Cherokee Nation Entertainment, Mr. Stewart. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I would like since we have a big agenda that I can see here that you need to spend some time on, I would let my report rest for both companies. I think our report stands for itself. If there are any specific questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Are there any questions for Mr. Stewart? For either Cherokee Nation Entertainment or Cherokee Nation Businesses? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Cherokee Nation Industries, Mr. DeVorstead.
I did have a question.
Is Mr. DeVorstead present or anyone from Cherokee Nation Industries?
Brian is here.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The financials for CNI are still being closed for the month of September, going into the new year and year to date, closing out the year. So I do not have any updates on financials at this time. We'll be trying to finalize that into this week, early next week, and then notifying BKD to come in and start the year-end audit. There was a request by council last time we met on some percentages, Cherokee percentages. Fishing hop, maybe. Kinda. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure you passed that.
The wool didn't help it either.
So if there's any questions,
Are there any questions of Mr. Collins on CNI? Fishing hall.
Yeah, I got a question about the problem at the Bigsby that you
Okay.
talked about before.
Yes.
I had received word back from CNI that it was not related to dirt. It was something about we had built the concession stands in the wrong place. Can you talk to that? Talk about that or address that? That's not so?
That's not anything that's new to me. So I know that the concession stands are complete, signed off on, and accepted. So I'm not certain to that question.
Any other questions, Mr. Collins? Okay. Thanks very much, Brian. Next is Career Services and Employment, Ms. Kelly.
Just point of information before she comes up, can somebody turn the air conditioning down? It is cold in here. Is there something wrong with it?
She's Easter. Doug is taking care of that.
Well, I'm not going to be as nice as everybody else. I'm going to take my time to do my report because you all asked me to come forward. You gave us 30 days to have some information, and I've got that information. And John and Brenda are passing that out. You also asked for some other information pertaining to other programs like the youth program or day work program, and I have statistical information that I'm going to report on that as well. Tim, you got that stuff? Bring it up. While y'all are looking over the packet of information that John and Brenda handed out to you is the statistical information that I believe it was Councilwoman, and I do have a pretty good memory, I believe it was Councilwoman Glory that asked if within 30 days could we have some information that would back up some of the legislative amendments that are going forward. If you'll look at the graph that's before you, it basically gives you an update on the certified Indian-owned businesses on a comparison from 2005 to 2009. And then we also have an ownership of tarot vendors, and since we've got a lot of tarot vendors in here, they may be interested in knowing this information. When you look at a graph like this, we have most of our tarot vendors are 100% Cherokee owned, and we couldn't say that several years back. When you look over on the black, it shows that they're 51%, and I know that's misspelled, but it's 51% owned. So if you took the black and you took the red, those are Cherokee businesses right there on the graph. And then when you look at the green and the white, those are Indian-owned businesses. So this kind of gives you a picturesque view of the fact that we do have a lot of Cherokee vendors out there. Now, I know you were talking about in earlier discussion, I think it was in rules, about whether or not we had Cherokees in all different categories. We probably do somewhere in the United States in some of these positions like medical engineers or whatever. Whether or not they want to come back and work for us is another thing. But believe it or not, we do have people that are coming to us that are getting certified not to do business with the Cherokee Nation. And if people are getting certified for that reason, they're going to go broke because they've got to be able to maintain with other companies out there besides the Cherokee Nation. And that's one of the things that we tell these businesses, and I see Mr. Springwater over there, and I think he will attest to this. Because if you're a local Indian-owned business in this area, you've got to be able to go out and market your business. It's good that you want to come back and work for the Cherokee Nation, and we're going to assist you as much as we possibly can. I also want to point out that we have the vendors by category, and you can see that the majority of the vendors in the white area is construction. And that's where most of the focus for tarot has been for a number of years, has been on the construction end of it. And then we've got the 23%, which is manufacturing, and 17% is professional construction. That would be your engineers, Kara. So I wanted to point that out. Retailers, 28%, that's the people that are buying, that Becky and John Watson and them are buying things from, so that's the retail end of it. So this kind of gives you an idea of where it's broken out. The next chart shows the Certified Indian-Owned Business Procurement Awards, and if you look at 2009 compared to the other years, you can see where that has escalated. So this tells you that tarot is working. You may hear from some people that will tell you that it's not, but overall it is working, or we wouldn't have this information here before you today. The star denotes only Cherokee Government and Cherokee Enterprises. We only were able to get information from the government, which was Becky's shop and Dave Stewart's shop. The 2 stars denotes tarot eligible procurement awards to tarot vendors. So that's what you're looking at over here on the white. The other sheet in the packet shows you the efforts to increase procurement to certified Indian economic enterprises. And we've got Mackie Moore here and Shay Smith with the Commerce Department. And this is to show that we have expanded the Bid Assistance Center, and Mackie and Kim Weber are working with businesses in those areas in Claremore and here in Tahlequah if they go into the bid center and are wanting help and assistance with putting together a bid package. And they also will have that listing. There's other information on that page, and I won't go into detail. The other is future efforts to increase procurement to certified Indian economic enterprises. This was some of the information that you asked for. I would hope that you would look this over. Do not take it lightly, because if you all have spent almost 2 years on ratifying the Terrell amendments, I would hope that you would take time to look at this packet, because there's a lot of good information in here. And for those of you council members who took the time out of your busy schedules to meet with Melanie Knight and I here in the last 2 or 3 weeks, or I talked to some of you all by telephone. I know I was talking to Chuck Hoskins while I was sitting on a runway in California. I tried to go out to meet with all of you all at different times, and I know with Chris, I went up to his business. I wasn't sure if I could find it, but I did find it, and he did make time. And I appreciate the dialogue. I know with Kara and with Jody, I spent a lot of time talking to you all, and I appreciate that. We have moved into a new location. It's on the highway. It's just right up the hill. It's Southgate, so it's easy accessible. It's in a modern building. Don Greenfeather asked me to come up one morning. He said, we have contractors coming in at 7 in the morning. And I went up there. While I was there from 7 to 8 o'clock, there was about 7 contractors that came in, because if they're in business for themselves, if they're going to need help with getting workers, they're going to be up there between 7 and 8 o'clock, because they start out early on their construction work. And Don said, if you'll come up, you'll see that we are busy early in the morning. So Don and Willard are up there at 7 in the morning, and they usually have a pot of coffee made, right, Don? And he said, bring donuts. He's on a diet, so you may want to bring fruit. The next is the flow chart, and I want to show you this. When we talked to some of you council members, you expressed the fact that you felt like that we needed to look at the duties that were associated with the Tarot and what all was going on. One of you said that you felt like that there needed to be a dedicated individual or 2 or 3 individuals to do just the EEOC complaints, and we went back and looked at that, and we have done that. If you'll look at this flow chart, Larry Ketcher, stand up, Larry. Everybody knows you, but I want these Tarot people to know who you are. Larry has worked in the employment and training program for a number of years. He's overseen Tarot at different times, and he's now the director over certified business compliance, which means that if there's a EEOC complaint with some of our people, you can go to Larry. He will be located at the Tarot office up at Southgate. He and another person will be responsible for working with those cases that come in. If there's contract areas where we can't get it mediated, John will be working on those. I think he spends 65% of his time working with the Tarot contractors, Tarot vendors, and the businesses. And once it reaches a point where he can't deal with it, then it will be given to Larry, and then Larry will be working with it. We also have 2 members of our administrative appeals group here, and I know they're out there, Kenny Lymore and Ralph King Jr. Ralph, can you and Kenny come in here for a minute?
Diane, excuse me. Mr. Hembry.
I'm calling
Todd.
now trying to tell him.
Todd.
We have 3 attorneys who sit on our administrative appeals board, and Ralph and Kenny are 2 of them, and we have expanded that to include our EEOC complaints that come in. So Larry will be the point person in our shop that will be working with you all and your clerk for any of those that need to go to your office. And we have sent some over, so it does work, and we have that in place to deal with any of those complaints that come in. We also listed in this packet an update on the EEOC, the facilities, additional staff, core crew list, and then we've also put some of the complaints, more of the recent ones in there to show you how they have been dealt with. We also, I would like to introduce another person, Jeff Vance. Where are you? Stand up. Jeff Vance is the new Director of Employment Training. He will be overseeing the Employment Training Adult Program, the Youth Program, and also the Day Work Program. And I'll be reporting on that in just a few minutes. Jeff has worked for the Jack Brown Treatment Center. He's worked in my operation for about 3 years. He's worked in our NAVTEP program, and he just recently moved over. So we're strengthening that. Daryl Legg, who was one of my counselors, job developers in the job development area, he's moved over to the vocational, and Brenda has gone back over to Voc Rehab. So it'll be Brenda, Daryl, and Jeff that'll be working on that as a team. And then within the Tarot unit, it will be John, Melanie Dodge, not Melanie Knight, but Melanie Dodge. Melanie's from Mays County. She and John and Larry will be working on all aspects of tarot operations, from job bank to job fairs to the construction end of it. And we are enhancing the jobs end of it on compliance officers. Starting Monday, we will have 2 new compliance officers coming on board. One is from Muskogee County, Mr. Garvin, Mr. Holderby, and then we have one from Mays County, and Mr. Walden. And then in the job business development end of it for Melanie, we have 2 new people coming on board, a Mr. Gregory from Mays County prior, and a Miss Davis from Kansas and Delaware County. So we have 4 new people coming on board Monday, and then we have people in the back that I think most of you have already met. We introduced them at the last committee meeting, and one of the things that I had told one of the council members, that we had a woman who had been working in construction that was coming to work for us. Well, I guess we waited too long. She took a job in Tulsa. So we have an effort to try to get a female in one of those positions, because believe it or not, we are getting some females that are coming through on that construction end. Also, we have information in here about the Recognition Achievement Banquet that will be held November the 19th at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. And we definitely would like to have you all there, because there are 2 council members that I will not disclose, but there are 2 council members that started out with us back in the 80s when we first started tarot, and were 2 of the first businesses to ever be certified, and they will be recognized at the banquet on the 19th. I will not mention their names, but they're old.
You were reminded of that?
Oh, Meredith said older than dirt. But anyway, we have a lot of things planned for that, and we hope that you tarot vendors that are here will make sure that you show up for that and recognize, because some of y'all may be getting one of the awards. Who knows? I know Mr. Springwater was one of the recipients last year, weren't you? Okay. I will go back to the packet in just a minute, but I do want to give you information about the day work program. We have information about that. This program, when it was talked about, we weren't so sure that we really wanted to do it, but I tell you what, it has been probably one of the more gratifying programs that you all ever dealt with. We're seeing people that we don't even see from a service side. I had a discussion with Norma Merriman yesterday on Human Services, and she said that her people that have been coming down have never seen some of these people. And one of the reasons that we started it was because of the economy and the fact that there's a lot of people out there that are without jobs, and it's really helped in a lot of areas. When you look at this report, you're going to see the numbers jump out at you in Cherokee County. And the reason that that number is so high, it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's from Cherokee County, but what it means is that we've got more job sites here in Cherokee County, and some of these people are coming in to here because they can get placed that same day they walk in. We are limited on the job sites in these other locations because we don't have facilities out there that we can place them in. Because of our insurance, it has to be on one of our facilities that we place them. We had a couple of problems with 2 of the workers that had been incarcerated, and we had 2 of them at the hospital, and guess what? One of the nurses recognized one of the guys, and somebody else recognized one, so now we're having to do some background checks on those sensitive areas where we're placing them. But the Marshal Service is working with us, and it's working. I think we can get some testimonials. We've been able to get several people jobs as a result of it. And I hope to have some profiles of some of these people that have benefited from this program at the next committee meeting. As you can see how much we've spent, and our overall budget, I believe, was $150,000 for the rest of this year. So we will be giving you a more extensive report later on. Large number of the clients are looking for work. They're identifiable Cherokees. The chief and the deputy went down the hall, shook hands, and if you go down there, you know that they're all Indians by looking at them. What does that mean, Bill John?
Telling Doug that we cut Todd off because he was talking.
Oh, I thought you meant for me.
Yeah.
That's okay. I've still got a little bit of time. And believe it or not, we're referring several of them to GEDs. We've identified a lot that need GEDs. This is to kind of give you an idea about the day work. We also have graphs that went around. Kim, did you see the graphs around? On the youth program, and it's in a pie chart. It's to show you where the counties are, and it's to show you the age groups. Okay. And it's to show you the number of students. And this was something that you asked for at the last meeting, and you asked about the day work program. There was a couple of other things. Let's see. Somebody asked me to talk about Boys and Girls Club. We will have checks being dispersed to the Boys and Girls Clubs, I think week after next. Dr. Morton and I will be getting together. We give them out in November, around the first part of November. So we'll be doing that. Be in contact with you if you want to come in and help with that. There was somebody asked about one of our contractors, the Green Country. That one is being investigated right now, and I can't really report on it. So we are working on that one.
Yes.
And somebody
Excuse me,
asked.
Diane.
Yes.
Mr. Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With respect, I have two questions, day work program and Green Country Interiors. With respect to the day work program, did you resolve the issue with, or are we able to place people in our health clinics or in around our health clinics, or is it still an issue of whether for that type of work it's appropriate to put them there?
I'm glad you brought that up. We had a meeting this morning at 10 o'clock. Melissa Gower, the health director, myself, Nason Morton, and Michael Botello. And Melissa is working on something so that we can do that in the clinics right now. Right now the hospital has been taking them, and they've been working in groups on some of the projects. But Melissa says it's one of the most successful programs that she's seen, and she's going to figure out a way that we can place them in certain jobs at the clinic. But there will be some jobs that we won't be able to place them in.
Well, I'm glad, because in my neck of the woods that would be a big opportunity for
Yes,
people.
and it is being worked on.
And then secondly, with respect to Green Country Interiors, is that an investigation being done by Taro or by, can you tell me who's investigating it?
Taro went up and met with the company itself, and there was other people involved, and that information has been given to the Attorney General's office.
Okay.
So it is being worked on.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Jordan.
On the day work program, Diane, we are encouraging those young people to apply for permanent positions if we have some positions open. Is that
That's correct.
Is there a way that we could get your office or maybe somewhere in admin to work with those individuals so that we try real hard to place some of them? They're awful good workers. I've seen them in several departments, and they just need to be given a chance. They're just looking for an entry-level job. And I would hope that if they work out, that we certainly try to get them on. We've got, 520 open vacancies? Surely we can find some positions for good workers.
That was one of the things that was discussed this morning in the meeting with Mr. Botello and in our meeting. And Michael is willing to work with us so that we can come in a training component. If you've got somebody that's coming out of college and they have the credentials, but maybe they don't have the experience, then we're going to sit down and try to work up some sort of a training plan for that person so that they can get their foot in the door, because most people that come in the door are on probation anyway.
And I know you said they were highly identifiable Indian, but let's make it clear they're highly identifiable
Cherokee. Yes, they have to be Cherokee to be on the day work program.
And there's
and when I say Cherokee,
one of them that need a job.
We're not accepting CDIB cards. They can turn the CDIB card in, but they have to have that tribal membership card. And yes, we are verifying that with our tribal registration office. And there have been some that have been denied because they have relinquished their membership.
Now, And I just think that's probably one of the greatest programs that we have started, a good place to put our money. And I hope it continues because there's a need. There's a need there. Now I want to move to Green Country Interiors. My understanding is over a period of time that we have given them contracts in the amount of somewhere in the neighborhood of $17.5 million. And I understood that your office tried to perform an audit of their books as provided through our Tarot law, and that you were refused admission to review their books. Is that correct?
Their attorney sent a letter to us, and we have turned all that over to the Attorney General's office, so it's being looked at.
So are the plans to pursue enforcement against that company?
I can't tell you what we're going to do at this point in time, but I will report back on it next month.
I would certainly hope, and this is just my personal opinion, that anyone that's been handed $17.5 million in contracts that refuses to allow us to look at their books, I would hope that we would consider not doing business with them again.
Well, our law stipulates that they are supposed to have records available when we ask for it, and that was pointed out to their attorney.
I would be so bold as to say that might be a reason to pull some pending contracts. And that's all I have at this time.
Councilor Slow.
Yeah, I'd just like to tell you my appreciation, Diane, for your assistance with several cases on the one-stop shop. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Councilor Fishing-Hawk.
Can I explain the Ramona bid? Because I know that you all say you've got the money, you got the manpower to show up at every bid meeting. I know at one time it was a mandatory pre-bid, then they changed it to a regular pre-bid meeting. And I'm looking at an email that said John Overwacker was supposed to be conferenced in, but then CNE moved the thing to where he couldn't be. There wasn't conference.
It's my understanding that John and his staff were shorthanded. I believe one of his workers was out with the flu, and he asked that they be conferenced in. And there was a clerk that was working there, and she tried to conference in. And I can attest to the fact that I was sitting at the Proctor Post Office the other day trying to conference in, and I couldn't get through myself on another conference call. And occasionally that does happen. John and them did not make the conference call. And it's my understanding from discussion with Flintco that Flintco has agreed that they will not in the future start it until they get through on the conference end of it. But from my perspective, since we are going to be fully staffed as of Monday, there should be no excuse on our end. And if there is, then I will work with Mr. Overacker to find out why somebody wasn't there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Proceed, Diane.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Diane?
Good report.
Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. Next is Commerce and a Night. Chase Smith. Reports.
Good afternoon. You should have a copy of the Commerce Report, and I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Yes, Ms. Fishing-Hawk.
Yeah, I was told the other day that part of the reason the One-Stop Shop Center was developed was so we could break these bids down into smaller bids to make them available for all our tarot vendors so they could bid on them. We're still seeing huge bids out there. Can you address that?
No, I can't, but we can provide a written response to you and your fellow council members. Sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Shay? Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Next is Cherokee National Historical Society, Mr. Kelly.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Appreciate y'all letting me talk to you. And I know that there's a lot of people wanting to hear more than just what I have to say, so I'll be very brief. I just want to say things are going extremely well, continue to go well. We're serving more people every year. This year we're up 2% over last year. The numbers are good. We've got money in the bank. Our debts are paid. I'm pretty excited about what's happening. And now the big news I'll share with you very quickly is that the board has just approved the master plan that we've been working on for the past 2 years. and we've given each of you a copy of that. Please take some time to look at it and come see me about it. I love to talk about this stuff. I'm pretty excited about the project, and look forward to a formal presentation at the appropriate time. It's now time to figure out how we're going to raise the money to get this project going, and just would be glad to talk to y'all about what you think about the project and any input that you're getting from your constituencies and that kind of thing. And the Ancient Village project is getting closer to ready to go with the first phase. We have an exhibit up called Time of Transitions, which talks a little bit about what the new Ancient Village will be like, and I'm real excited to talk to you about that. And if any of you do not have the report that we did, the documentation and the research on the Ancient Village, please let me know and I can get you a copy of that as well. And with that, I'll entertain any questions. Or
any questions for Mr. Tilley? Yes,
I wish you would go back to the participants in the outreach program that goes out to the schools, and just commend them for the job well done that they do. They continue to impact our area when they visit our schools. And I hear kids always asking if Robert Taylor's coming back, and it just amazes me that a young kid would not remember the name of somebody that comes. And I think it goes to demonstrate the impact that those individuals are having upon the kids, as far as references. And the reference that I heard was time for a speech in one of our classes, literature classes. And the young man just happened to be over at my house, and he was a friend of my son's. But he mentioned Robert's name, and I just really thought that was profound. The fact that he remembered him, and so that means that he is known for his speech and his talking and so forth. So he's having an impact on the youth, and just appreciate that program. So if you guys will continue to support that, we appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it. That outreach program has been immensely successful. I think, off the top of my head, I think we reached about 16,000 people, most of them kids within the 14-county area. And we never expected that kind of response to it. So we're trying to keep up with the demand. We continue to work with Robert, but he's moved into another position at the Nation, but continues to work with us. And Robert Lewis is incredible as a storyteller and with the children, so we're excited about that. But it's one of the reasons our numbers continue to climb, because we continue to work with more people each year. So thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Tilley? Thanks very much. Next are consent items. Excuse me. Mr.
Can I
Sales.
ask Melanie and I a question before we get too far down? A question. This is the place to ask it.
Concerning
Community assistance.
Ms. Knight.
Oh, well, on our community assistance, now, where do we send those proposals to, applications?
I believe, and I could be mistaken, but the speaker informed me that Gail Miller was collecting them on your side of the house, and then our contact is Ginger Brown. So she's collecting them for us.
Gail, so that's what we helping.
Okay, and I asked Ginger to get with Gail to make sure that they had all of the information together.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next are the consent items. And first are the tarot certifications. Those are immediately following the reports. I would entertain a motion for their approval.
Point of order, I need to ask Diane Kelly a question about these corporations, how they're identifying whether they're 51% owned.
Excuse me. Diane.
No.
Counselor Jordan has a question on the tarot certifications. Will John suffice?
The corporations are treated just the same as everything else. We do the stock records, we do the tax returns to make sure they match up, but we total up the number of shares, go through their minutes from all their meetings and things like that as well. And we also look at our site visit to make sure that person is doing, not just owning 51% of the stocks, but is in the day-to-day business of the company.
John, as we review them for renewal, are we checking their stock again?
We call and ask. Sometimes it's tough to pull all the documents in at one month. we're looking at 90 to our total now after this month is going to be around 500 businesses altogether. And sometimes we may have 90 to 95 in one month come through. They do a monthly certification process they send to us to see if anything's changed in the business. And if anything has, once they certify that, they notarize it and send it to us. And if we hear a complaint about it or a question about it, then we will go to that company and ask them for their documents. And at any time, if we look at and investigate there or look at our documents and the documents don't match up from what they told us, then we can bring it back to the committee and the committee can deny the recertification the following month if we receive a complaint from it.
So you're not asking for the corporate secretary to certify as to the ownership of stock?
Yes, we ask it in the recertification form. It asks if anything has changed, any ownership in the business has changed, percentage-wise, or any stocks.
And then it's just self-identification? I mean, we're not...
Correct. Right now it is. They notarize it, saying that to the best of their knowledge, that's true what they're giving us. And then if anyone asks a question about that company, then we go and look at the company's documents. Is there a company you're wanting us to look at? If there is, you'll send it through Diana. We'll gladly look at it for you.
But initially, when you recommend them for approval, you are looking at their documents?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The committee actually, we have 6 committee members there. All 6 of the committee members look at each application and comb through the different documents, the stock reports, the stock ledgers, to make sure that the front and back pages of the stock certificates are printed as well, and that it matches up with the tax returns and the minutes of the meetings.
Because I think a few times I've brought to y'all's attention that companies have changed hands.
Correct. You brought, I believe, about 9 or 10 months ago, it was a realty company, and we did ask, I visited that myself, and it did change hands, and we actually pulled their Terrell certificate from this company.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Call.
I have a question on number 2, and this may be for you or Diana or Melanie or a combination. Cherokee Nation Technology Solutions, if I'm reading that correctly, that is the Cherokee Nation, correct?
Correct.
How does that work? When we're talking about, how does...
They form an LLC company, is what they take.
Exactly, I got that, but how do you, 100% Indian, obviously but how do you, I'm just curious what the paperwork says.
They have articles of organization when they start to lay everything out, lay out the backbone foundation of the business.
I guess what I'm asking,
and actually assigned by Chad Smith.
Who is listed as the owner is what I'm asking.
Chief Smith.
That's what I want to know. Thank you.
You look at their on
Councilor Jordan.
Yes, on an LLC, you are looking at their operating agreement, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's not their articles. It's just signed by one person that gets an LLC certificate from the state, but their operating agreement breaks down who owns what.
Correct. The partnership breakout and everything else and what they actually might have brought to the company, whether it be cash or assets to the company as well.
Any other questions? Mr. O'Brien. Okay. Thanks, John. Okay. I would entertain a motion for the approval of the Terrell certifications.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next are the cemetery restoration assistance
Move for
application.
approval.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next, law enforcement request. Are there none? The community assistance, there's none. The roads.
There are roads, yes.
Those are also,
On the law enforcement, just as a note, the motor vehicle tax revenue apportionment will be happening late December, 1st of January, so you should start seeing those dollars come down at the beginning of the calendar year. On the roads, there was an amendment to the roads that came out in your packet. In addition to Mr. Buzzard's motor fuel roads, items of State Line North Road 27 had a slight refund, and the Deerlick Phase 6 striping project committed $6,589. The vehicle tax road projects both had refunds. One, Mr. Buzzard on Deerlick Road Phase 5 for $70, and Centralia Road Phase 3, Mr. Hoskin, $1867.
The commitments for this month are obligations, the Butt Tree driveway project, Mr. Thornton, $5,000 under the Special Bridge and Access Road Fund.
And the amended one was passed out prior to the beginning of the meeting.
Yes.
I entertain a motion for its approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Okay. Next is under old business, item 3. An act superseding Cherokee Nation law regarding labor and employment rights ordinance. Councilor Watts.
Thank you. I am honored to present something that really was a labor of love by all these council people, although some may have not participated towards the end due to political differences. This was a labor not just on the council people at this table. Chief Smith, did a lot of compromising with us to get to where we could put something in law that the government itself could live with for a long time. And I want to just say thank you to Melanie Knight and her staff and Ms. Diane Kelly and all the folks in Career Services and Taro that put labor of love every day into our small businesses, because Taro is not just about Indian preference any longer. It has now become about helping people develop small business plans, get loans, create the one-stop shops, get free access to bidding materials, which you have to pay for in Tulsa, and other through. It has now become so much more than a simple law of Indian preference for vendors, contractors, and appointments. And with that, I want to welcome all of you because we've been excited about this for 6 years. And again, this is probably the most folks I've seen in one place concerning our small businesses. And it's because of what Ms. Kelly referred to. And unfortunately, we don't have these charts for everybody. But her and her staff have more than doubled the number of registered Taro businesses in the Cherokee Nation. And for me, that's very exciting. Personally, my husband owns he's Wyandotte. He has 2 Indian-owned construction businesses that he runs and operates, and we try to hire our Indian people in the community. In fact, he's surrounded by Cherokees. For those that know him, he is absolutely surrounded at this point. I have a small consulting company that is mine, that's just me. So I understand the struggles of what you have to do every day and at the end of the year filing taxes and all the stuff that goes into it. So that is with great pleasure why I'm presenting alternative language today that goes beyond the current Taro legislation. Under the current Taro legislation, there is no applicable law on behalf of the Cherokee Nation or its entities. There was prior case law that said Taro did not apply to the government. So now, under the legislation that Buell Anglin and Jack Baker, myself, and anyone else on this council would like to co-sponsor, this under Section 8, Taro law, so Indian preference in contracting and vending selection as well as employment, would now apply to the Cherokee Nation and its entities or the tribally owned businesses. So I'm not sure what you've been told, but I hope you haven't wasted your time today away from your businesses, because I know how much it costs us to be away from our business for a day. But everybody at this table believes in Indian preference and the idea that we should be committed at all levels to trying to further our economy through the use of Indian-owned businesses and employing our own people. But why I'm excited about the compromise language is not compromise in the extent that we gave up anything. I think we gained more out of this last go-round. The reason I say that was it became very apparent to me that we had got lost in political squabbling in our work groups in this committee. Because instead of laws that we could all live with that would benefit our government and therefore our people and the businesses that we try to run that then profit back to our programs and services at the tribe, we had gotten to the point where we were going to start excluding those additional benefits that Diane Kelly and them had tried to bring forward. So I believe I have 10 minutes, don't I?
Yes.
Okay. So Diane
Well-
Kelly, what I,
But you're leading up to making the motion.
Yes, I am.
The motion has not been made.
I'll make, if I can continue, I'll make the motion, and then you can second, and if I can continue.
Okay.
So, what I realized was, my husband had not even, he works every day out in the field, or he's bidding jobs at home. Taro by itself for $45 a year or whatever it is now was not attractive to him. He didn't care. He's really good at what he does. There was no need for Indian preference. There's very few people that do. He specializes in pier drilling, foundation pier drilling. He didn't care. It only became attractive after Diane Kelly and her crew started adding the one-stop shop businesses. The fact that you could then go and access at no cost all of the schematics and everything else, and avoid those bid room where it's all crazy, people aren't helpful, and you pay a lot of money for it. The idea that you could maybe access additional loan monies that you couldn't, especially in a down economy, with non-traditional loans, so to speak, through Indian country, those things. This only became attractive. These other laws that were tabled today became so politically narrow and focused on a few individual cases.
Point of order.
Yes.
Let's talk about her act, stay the heck off of everybody else's act.
That's fine. So anyway, things became focused on something else that was contrary to what I believe our small business owners would really be attracted to long term. Because we already see federal, on the national level, the 8A companies that are for the Alaskan 8As, where they get political set-asides by law, they are now at risk because those political set-asides are being attacked, and those businesses will collapse and people will lose jobs. That's the last thing I want to do, is set up our local, regional economy for the Cherokee Nation around political set-asides. Am I saying we're perfect? No. I have been to the mat with several of you on our businesses and in our government about contracting and bidding that may have went wrong somewhere. And I will continue to help you. And I think there are some things we will continue to have to work out, even if this law is adopted today. But I'm very excited because, first of all, we now apply the law to the nation and its entities. Now we create a major Cherokee employer. So some of you may have worked for these people, but there are employers in our economy that may not be Cherokee, but they employed you and all your buddies for a long time. So if there is not a Taro contractor in an area, now we create another third tier that if they're really employing a bunch of Cherokees, they could, if a Taro is not available, we could still employ Cherokees through that. But that would be a separate deal through this act. Then we also create where there's a local Indian-owned preference. There is the ability under policy now with this law, if it's adopted, that if you're competing against Indian-owned companies from outside the jurisdiction of the Cherokee Nation, you could have a local Indian-owned preference. And Cherokees are then the first tier. There's 3 tiers. There's Cherokees, other Indians, and then major Indian-owned or major Cherokee employers. We mandate reporting requirements for the Cherokee Nation and its entities to Taro on a quarterly basis. And you have to disclose proof of poor performance issues to you. So if somebody says you've proven poor performance, they have to show you and document that and share it with you. It can't just be, it has to be in the light of day. Then it's $50 per person per contract for non-core employees now if they're non-Indian. And we put EEOC oversight in the Administrative Appeals Board. It does not create an independent commission. And the reason I think it's important that we don't,
I'm going to call time on you.
make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate Councilor Callan Watts' comments about the legislation. I think that the idea that this legislation applies in a meaningful way to Cherokee Nation and its entities is really not worth the paper it's printed on. Because the fact of the matter is, the most that the Administrative Appeals Board can do is issue a notice of noncompliance. Now, if you're a tarot contractor, you'll get no such treatment. If you run afoul of this law, there are specified penalties that you will suffer. But if you're Cherokee Nation or its entities, you will get a notice of noncompliance that someone can wave around and say you didn't comply. Now, there may be some political benefit to that. There may be some pressure that could be applied if this happens enough to, say, C&E. But I just don't agree that this applies in a meaningful way to Cherokee Nation and its entities. If it did apply in a meaningful way, if the playing field was level, Mr. Chairman, I would come closer to supporting this. But I just don't think it does that. And for that reason and others, Mr. Chairman, I can't support it in this form. Thank you.
Sure. Councilor Watts.
Would it be acceptable if there was limited cause of action for injunctive relief related to just the contract in question?
May I respond? I think she's
You
ready.
yield to me.
Yeah, I was asking him to help see if we could.
Well, if I hear what you're saying right, the Administrative Appeals Board could issue an injunction, say that Cherokee Nation Enterprises wasn't complying, perhaps they weren't hiring Cherokees, and the board would issue an injunction. Is that what you're suggesting?
I don't know if it would be the Employee Appeals Board under the way it's constructed now, but if it was a limited cause of action with just injunctive relief with respect to the contractor or vendor selection in question.
Well, possibly. I mean, that gets us a little ways towards it. I would like to see a level playing field, though. I would like to see all of the penalties that apply to the contractors to apply to Cherokee Nation.
So we would penalize ourselves?
Yes, exactly. We would, because we would send a message that there is a level playing field, and if there's some cost associated with that, then so be it. Now, there in the other legislation, which is not before us, there was an idea of penalizing every day for an Indian not hired in a position, and I felt like that could be something we wouldn't apply to Cherokee Nation Enterprises. But I just think this idea that Section 8 means that it applies in a meaningful way to the nation and the entities is just not accurate. It just doesn't. And unless we have something stronger, and injunctive relief is getting there, it's not there enough for me, but unless we get stronger, I can't support this. I yield back
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's just what I wanted to ask you.
Okay, Councilor Jordan.
I would offer as a friendly amendment to the sponsor of this bill that on page 2, under definitions, section 4F, that we remove the excludes the nation and the entities. If we're really going to do this, then we need to make it apply to us. What is a law when we exclude the very entities that give all the business to the people? And basically that's what we're doing here, is when you exclude the nation and its entities, you are excluding everyone that contracts with all these people in this room. And I have 10 minutes, right?
No, you do.
Okay. The other part of the friendly amendment is that I would like to offer that instead of $50 per person per contract, we put some teeth in that law, keep them from hiring anybody other than Cherokees or other Indians by saying $50 a day. Past your core crew that's been approved, when you get a contract, if you don't want to hire someone that is of Indian descent or Cherokee descent, then you need to pay a premium in order to have those other people on site. You said your husband owns 2 companies. My husband owns a company also and builds bridges. Folks, when we can find 100% Cherokees, I don't know why anybody else can't. We've built bridges in this area now for the last 3 years. We've been able to find Cherokees to work for us, and I think any other company can too. They're just not looking hard enough. If you tack on a $50 premium per day to have someone out on your job site, you're going to think twice, because you're really adding a couple of dollars per hour to that individual salary. So if you want to hire a non-Indian, if you truly believe you've got to have a non-Indian on your crew, then ante up to $50. Ante it up to Terrell so we can beef up the Terrell area. Terrell needs more employees. Terrell needs more teeth. Money'll do it. Folks, if you all don't get in here that we take out, it excludes the nation and the entities, nothing is being accomplished by passing this bill today. And for that reason, I cannot support it unless you will accept my friendly amendment to make the nation and its entities part of this act.
Okay. So do you
Got it.
accept the friendly amendment?
So I'll accept one, but I won't accept the other.
Which one are you going to accept?
I'll accept the $50 per day, but these people need to realize every non-Indian on their staff that's not part of core crew, you will now pay $50 per day.
You're still not going to
Per
get any
individual.
contracts, folks, because it's not going to apply to the nation and its entities.
And the reason I'm not
This
accepting
is a
the other,
tough bill, folks. You're getting sold a bill of goods, and I want you to know it.
point of order. So
I'll call
anyway,
point of order on myself. It is a tough bill written by admin. And these people are getting sold a bill of goods, and they need to know it.
I think it's important that this body cannot waive sovereign immunity blankly to anyone, even our own citizens. And by opening up a cause of action for all sorts of people to come in and potentially sue the checkbook, meaning the casino, that becomes problematic. So it has to be limited. I'm not adverse to
So
cause of action,
part
it has to be
of,
limited.
what part of the friendly, you're
I'll
accepting?
accept the $50 per day per non-Indian employee that everybody will have to pay if they're on one of our contracts.
Okay, you're.
I withdraw my friendly amendment. Jack, I withdraw my friendly amendment. She's not going to accept the one that counts that will really help these people, so don't let her, I'm not going to let her accept the
I got
rest
8
of it.
Cherokees working for me right now, 2 kids.
Okay. Councilor Baker.
Is hogwash calls for a point of order, because that's what this is. Nothing but hogwash. You sit here and you read it, and it says that basically Tara was going to start from scratch, and says the Taro and its staff shall, with all reasonable speed, adopt detailed rules, regulations, policies, guidelines to fully implement the title of this. And it comes on through and it says that the nation and its entities and contractor employers may consider including in their respective procurement policies provisions targeting locally owned businesses as appropriate. It says Cherokee Nation and its entities shall establish annual, now they're going to establish their own goals. You know, this body's not going to establish it. The government's not going to establish it. We're going to let the entities decide, you know, what percent should we get to? How many Cherokees should we hire? Should our Cherokee dollars go to Cherokee vendors? And this is nothing but hogwash. And, I mean, what we've got's better than this. And I just, you know, a few have been able to come through the maze to get a little bit of work from the Cherokee Nation and all. Now we're going to throw that out, and we're going to add this, and we're going to start over. Folks, this is ignorant, and I cannot support it. And, you know, the comment was made by somebody a while ago that because of political reasons, a few people didn't show up for some of the meetings. Let me tell you, I showed up for every meeting I knew about, and I'm getting sick and tired of these secret meetings and 8 or 10 people getting together and deciding your fates of you folks in this room. It's wrong, 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 and I will not support this bill under any circumstances.
Councilor England.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to yield some time to Secretary of State on tonight, some of my time.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to address some comments made by Councilor Hoskin, and I think it addresses to some extent the comments made by Councilor Jordan as to accountability, essentially, is what we're talking about, because the Act clearly applies Indian preference to the nation and its entities, and it's very straightforward. I could not recommend simply adding the nation in the definition of employer contractor, because I think when you get further into the act, you see that we treat employer contractor as an outside entity, a third party. And we would be, it allows Taro to, with the advice of the AG, bring suit against contractors' employers. We'd be suing ourselves. It would be a circular reference. So my recommendation would be is that if a limited cause of action, which is essentially a waiver of sovereign immunity, be considered, I don't think that the principal chief is necessarily opposed to that, as long as it is limited, it's specific. We know what we're getting into, and it's not as simply a blanket waiver as to the entire, act, but that we outline what the process is, what the specific waiver is, and what the damages could be if there was a complaint brought against the nation or its entities, and what those limits would be. So I guess with that, I would leave that with you as to whether it's AAB, whether it is an outside arbitrator, whether it is a mediator, whether it is the nation's court system, or a combination of those remedies. I think the principal chief is open to discussing that. So having said that, because the current bill specifically does exclude the nation and its entities, we've applied it because of policy. We've applied immune preference because of policy. But this act would bring us in, and so my recommendation would be to pass this act and to specifically sit down, and we would be willing to sit down with your counsel and bring the AG into that discussion and outline some possible limitations on a sovereign immunity waiver that we would later bring to you. Thank you.
Chair, I'm sorry, Chair, I apologize for being so. Well, can I address the chair? I'm a Cherokee.
No.
We talk to him?
No. If one of the council members wants to yield to you.
You let these people here tell you, won't you hear from your people? Or what? Are y'all fixing to vote and close this out today? Is that what's going on? Is this
Councilor
today? I'm worried. I need to get
Councilor
speed.
Hoskin, your second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are you keeping track of my minutes?
No. Well, your 10 minutes starts now.
All right. Madam Secretary, isn't it true that there is zero enforcement, there's no enforcement mechanism in this legislation if the nation or its entities violate it? That's true, isn't it?
There's not a specific waiver. I think there's debate as to whether there is enforcement.
Well, what's the debate if there's enforcement?
I think
Show
the
me
debate
provision where
is
there's enforcement.
whether, if it says the nation must comply, if a citizen had standing in our nation's courts and said, I am harmed because the nation didn't comply, what would the courts do in that situation? I'm not sure.
I mean, Madam Speaker, as it's written now, there is no cause
They're
of
not
action.
limited.
There's no cause of action.
There's no. it's not
There is a
limited.
specific action that can take place if the nation violates its obligations, and that is they will get a notice of noncompliance. That seems to be the extent of it.
Anyone can bring suit, and I'm not sure what would happen
Well,
in
Madam
that
Secretary,
case.
if the debate is that anyone can bring suit, that's true for anything.
That's true.
But
we have a specific requirement now under this
Yes,
act.
the specific action that can be taken against the nation or its entities is just a notice of noncompliance. I can't find anything else in this act beyond that.
I'm sorry, I don't want to be argumentative, but I can't say what a court might present as a remedy.
If we applied if we applied essentially the same standard to the Cherokee Nation as entities as we applied to the contractors, the most that would happen is the Tara would make a determination. That would be reviewable by the Administrative Appeals Board, and then it could be reviewed by the Cherokee Nation District Court, and under this standard for abuse of discretion, which is almost no chance that they're going to overturn the Administrative Appeals Board. So I don't see the harm in the nation being exposed to that same procedure. I don't see the harm.
My recommendation is if a sovereign immunity waiver is contemplated, and again, we're not opposed to that necessarily, but that it be specific and limited, and it's very clear what applies to the nation and its entities.
Then I would take that recommendation as a recommendation to table, because if we're going to pass this with the hope that between now and next council meeting we'll work out what is a very crucial part. I mean, to me, this is almost the most crucial part of this legislation, whether it apply. I really don't feel comfortable leaving that to some ad hoc committee discussing it between now and the council meeting. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would move to table.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Roll call, please.
Bill John Baker,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
Pass.
Harley Buzzard,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
No.
Bradley Cobb,
No.
Joe Crittenden,
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk.
Yes.
Meredith Rayleigh,
Tabled, yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
No.
Don Garvin,
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Hannah Glory Jordan,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
Chris Soap,
No.
David Thornton,
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts,
No.
Bill England,
No.
Jack Baker.
No.
We have 9 yes and 8 no.
Okay. Motion to table carried. So this has been tabled till next month.
I move to form an ad hoc committee so that we can discuss this in committee before it comes back to full council.
There is an ad hoc Terrell committee.
No, that's been disbanded by the chairperson.
Okay.
I might be able to add to this, Jack. We talked to the speaker, and she suggested it. Maybe
Okay.
get somebody from this side, AG, Terrell, and a couple of Terrell vendors in here to settle the difference.
Okay. And you may even want to have an open hearing so that the public can.
Well, that was my next question.
Did you say that?
I said that.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to form the Terrell ad hoc committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And this one.
Jack, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Now, I know there's a lot of times when smoke shop people come in here and we let them talk.
Well, that's when a council person, I've been following strictly Robert's
Well, that's what I was
rules
going to
of
bring up. I wanted to yield my time to the gentleman back here that.
order. Which you could have, but we've already passed that now, so it's been
I was in
tabled.
line.
Right, you were, but it's been tabled, so now we're moving on to future business.
Is there not any way out of a courtesy to all the people that came today that we could hear from a few of them? They are our
If you
people.
want to make
Mr.
a
Chairman, I
motion.
make a motion to amend the agenda to allow a reasonable amount of time for some discussion from the public on the Terrell issue.
Second.
Can I offer an amendment to that, Mr. Hoskin, that we let one person be their spokesperson?
How about 3? And they keep it very short because there may be some divergence of opinion.
We put a time limit on it?
That's fine, whatever's reasonable, Mr. Chairman.
2 minutes? 3 minutes? 2 minutes?
3 minutes apiece is fine.
Okay. So the motion's been made and seconded. They will allow 3 people to speak for 3 minutes each. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So how do we,
You need 3 hands to get up there and say no.
excuse me.
Motion to recess for 5 minutes so that they can select their 3 people.
Second. Motion been made to recess for 5 minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So we will start again at 4:45. I don't want him to do it. I don't know.
running that? But I don't like it in that arena.
Joe, you get enough rain over there and be there?
I had enough before today.
The reason I was late, I was coming down here and I was just north of Canada, and this man and wife and were walking in the rain and run out of gas.
Yeah.
So I stopped and
Were they driving, by the way?
I don't know.
Was it a van? Oh, you didn't see their vehicle?
No, I think it was a white older car. It was just pouring down rain, and I thought, man, I cannot go on back. So I picked him up, got him all the way back to jail.
Oh, it
They told me to run late about 10 or 15 minutes.
I don't know how much it rained at home, but I'll guarantee you it's rained probably a couple inches or more right here.
Yeah, it really rained out there. Well,
yeah, I've been having some logging done over at the house, over on the mountain. And I've been having some roads cut in to the hills where I can go through, get across the hollers and stuff. And it's been a little bit of an effort because some of the soil, rock formation, is good for road building. But if there's any clay in there, even if the bed is pretty firm, if there's just a half inch of a little bit of clay here and there, it's wet and it just gets like, it's like ice almost, And then I've had a big log skidder up there running around getting logs. And up on the flat, there ain't no rocks on it. It's just dirt. Ditches, middle tires that wide. I mean, this deep in the earth.
what kind of logs you selling? All kinds?
Just a little bit of everything. Making ties, mostly. And I saw in dimensional lumber type stuff. Now they can sell lumber, but the market's not good for that. If they can sell all the ties they can make.
Yeah, somebody down there.
Yeah, they're Eubanks boys. I forget what the name of their. It's not the three E's or the. I'm not sure. It's Eubanks. Their sawmill. I'll tell you where Stillwell at all, where the high school is. Just west of the high school, like he's coming over here, and it's on the right. There used to be a little trailer park there.
We were getting like $7 or $8 a piece for those 7 by 9s. They must be $15 or $20
or more, yeah. Can you imagine, Harvey? How would you like to try to shoulder a 7 by 9 tire right now and walk off with it?
We used to have it all in the hand because we take them to Grand Arkansas. They didn't have a loader and unload the truck. They didn't have as many as 50, 60 tires in the truck.
Yeah.
We used to have to get up on the grab one end. So long.
I used to watch him boys at Stillwell at the tie yard. Now, I didn't get in on the tie hat, like the wrap all the head, rod action. But I got in on the cordwood side, cut the cordwood. But I used to work up there close enough sometimes at the factory. And you'd see them boys out there putting in ties out in boxcars or loading the boxcars. And they'd have a plank on it. And then most of them, Native American Cherokee, and they'd go out there and get tied. That boxcar. They'd come down that board or go up and stack it. Turn around and go get another one. And they'd do that all day long.
I guess they'd have where it bounced like that, where there's in that, all that weight.
But, I mean, just the tie on your shoulder. I mean, most people today couldn't walk with one. It would cut in their shoulder, they'd be hollering and carrying.
Either had to do it or starve, and that's kind of what it was.
It seemed like Grandpa. By the time my dad would come along and was helping, most of the good flat areas out there in the woods had already been cut. So you find your good water oak or red oak or whatever you're making your tie out of, and you find it down on the slope or down in the hollow.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So you go down there and you cut it and let it fall, and you go down there and hew it out. And then somehow you got to get it out of that hollow up to the wagon.
I remember my dad never used to do that. I never did.
Dad said Grandpa, his dad, he weighed about 240 pounds, about 6 foot tall. And he was just kind of like a tree, you know, he just big all the way up. He wasn't fat, but he was just chunky. And he'd go down there and throw that tile or 7 by 9 tile on his shoulder. And when it gets so steep in places, he'd have to hold on to bushes to kind of pull himself out. Well, Lord have mercy. Most people today, they'd die down there with that tile. They never would be able to get out of that. Probably I'd hate to try it.
I stole a bunch of walnut off my place 4 or 5 years ago. I guess I got good money back then. I didn't keep up with it. The boy asked me, he said, he's going to give me like $4,000. Oh no, but I'd rather sell them. I'd rather cut them than just finish half. He didn't get the job. Another boy come in and I gave it to him, but we wound up selling $16,000 a time. And he made killing for $4,000.
Man, yeah.
Them guys know what they're doing.
I'll tell you, with timber today, a lot of it.
And I told Mr. Springwater you were going to yield your time, but that was the way you had to do it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was.
Right, I knew that.
I
But I told him I thought Cody was too, so.
Okay. But a lot of your timber today, Artie, if you cut it, you might look at a tree and it looks like a great tree, you know, and healthy and everything. You cut into that dude and it's got a hole in it that big. It might go all the way plumb to the top. But it ruins your time. You know, it's not but you can't tell a lot of them. They look solid.
I know it, yeah. You can't tell.
Sometimes them guys cut them, when they cut it, as soon as they hit the quick, that hole, they stop. They cut the tree down.
My brother, he just said he was taller than well, you can hit that thing there. He knew that thing.
I'm Rick Dustin Parker. We'll be here with something. You're taking it. Let's do it. We're a Terrell vendor, but it's a couple of deals that we've been with the Cherokee Nation. So that's a little to do with what's going on today.
They're all standing out there.
You knew me and they put a little bird together.
Junior? Maybe, yeah.
Junior says and Kara. Call this meeting back to order. He's okay. We will hear from 3 Terrell vendors. Have they selected their spokespeople? Mr. Springwater. You're up. 3 minutes.
I said just a couple, I don't mean to be hogging the mic here, just somebody else might go.
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes, really?
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Or is it that?
Keep them all night.
Well,
My name's Stephen Springwater, and I want to tell you, first of all, it's the first council meeting I've ever been to. I mean, it's really exciting to see how the Cherokee government, or how this thing's going on. I was like, oh my God. I wanted to get real mad, then I kind of dozing out, but, and I apologize. I didn't mean to be rude to you. But I'm Stephen Springwater, and I've got a little fence company here, and I've had it in Telequan. I was born and raised in here. And my family's from here, in Cherokee Indian. I've built a little fence business. I currently have 8 Cherokees that work for me. We're on a big road project down there in Daytown, and run out of workers the other day. Called Taro. They sent me 3 hands that week. They were calling on the ball. As far as this, and I'm not an educated man, it seems like to me that you're kind of wanting to take a step backwards here as far as getting this. We're trying to help the Cherokee people and get that money going our way, and it's that sovereign nation thing, and one drop of blood, but I have a problem with the attitude. Is if I call up one of these entities, that are on this list, and I can't remember his name, I'd say, I call down there and say, hey, Cherokee Nation Construction, I need some help. I'm wanting to bid on this. Well, what set me off about it all is the attitude that they had about it. The attitude of, well, we don't have to give that to the Cherokee. This is Cherokee talking, another Cherokee talking to me. Okay? And I'm not forgetting, but, hey, bud, we don't have to give that to you. Well, I tell you what, by my right, I'm going to go get it. I want it. I know you catch more bees with honey and all that, but, man, I just don't agree with that attitude. And why are you wanting to get away from trying to help us? We need their guidance and their experience and their willingness and kindness and knowledge of construction to say, hey, Stephen, you're going to get in this? Come on down here. That's what my Taro folks down here at the One Stop and and all this system they got going on. I use it all the time. I can't do a computer. I go down there on Mackie, whip it up. We get all these plans that cost you $500 or $600 to do. They can pull them up. We got the advantage, and it's going good, and it's being a success. I don't understand the total. Why do you guys on this council? Why do you want them to be able to do their own thing and deter that money somewhere else? Is there I've known Chris. Is there a good reason? I trust you. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe we don't have the confidence that we can do it. You know what I mean? That we can be a success. The Indian's not really known for being a laborer. My dad used to say, he'd say, I'm an educated Indian. I'm a token Indian. I'm a token Indian. Getting Indians educated. Well, right now, I want to say I'm a token Indian. I'm out here in the real world in a small business, building a business, building a good business, building it with Cherokees, building it with the assets that you as are given to me, and it's helping me, and it's done good. Now, I don't live and die by Cherokee Nation. I've built the business. Overacre said to me one time, he said, our goal is for you guys to have so much work that you doing it for us on the side. I thought, wow, because I've got all this big work. There's some big work coming in, and it's had an impact on not only my family, but the 8 Cherokees that I got currently employed and their kids. They're all Cherokee. They're all workers, and it's all in how we train them. And you take these people behind you that are in these businesses. These are the trainers. You know what I mean? They're going to take 5 or 6 employees on. We're going to weed through them, and there's going to be some bad and good and all that. But man, it looks like it would be a step backwards. I think we're going to get it. We're going to get there. I mean, we're on the way. I mean, we're getting more intelligent. You're putting all your money into these kids, and there's other generations coming up. We're getting smarter, as a nation. And I want to say this: there's nothing more I enjoy in this job is the freedom that being self-employed and be able to go up in Jay and Kenwood and Salina and be on these roads and see these full-bloods traveling these roads and coming out of these woods and visiting with them and talking with them. Dawn Greenfeather coming by, visiting with me, making sure I got all my Indians, are in there, ducks in a row. Sitting up at Salina, these little Head Start schools with these little full-blood elder women, and I'm just in awe, of what feels good. I'd almost do it for free. No, I wouldn't do it for free. But hey,
I've given you.
Let me just wrap up. I got one more minute. I myself appreciate what you guys do. I've learned a lot today. I mean, this is neat. This is neat. I appreciate you guys. Don't take a step backward. Think about it. We'll get it together. We got people coming up. We're going to branch out. We got there's some heavy hitters in here. I'm scared to talk to them. Building big, good businesses. And I appreciate the ones. I appreciate the ones sticking up for us, and not like that. I appreciate the job you do. And you got to make decisions. You guys are smarter than me, and you got to do what you got to do. I didn't like the attitude when I called down there to them. When you're dealing with two Indians talking, hey, I don't have to help you. That's not the way it's supposed to be. That Indian needs to help this Indian, because I'm going to help 8 more.
Okay. We appreciate your
Yes, sir.
comments.
Thank you.
Is there another spokesperson?
Let's speak.
Yes.
I'm Rick Bussey. I'm from Colquitt, Oklahoma. Our business is Arkamo. I got a little card in the mail that said to come down about the tariff, so I was interested in seeing what was going on. This reminds me of watching TV a little bit at times when you late at night seeing the Congress in session. It seemed like there had been a whole lot, but not a whole lot to get accomplished. Thing I wanted to mention is, when we joined the tariff deal for several years, I mean, we hit every avenue, but it seemed like it was always a block wall. Wasn't having any success at all. We landed a few contracts this year, but we hit some contracts that we took and quoted that we were way under the competition. But they went back and said, we can do whatever we want to. We don't have to. And I said, hey, we're Terrell certified. We've got the equipment. You check it out. We'll put it out in the field so you know what the equipment's doing. Didn't make them any difference at all. They said, well, your piece didn't say that it was diesel, but I said your bid said it was equivalent to. I said, and we've met and exceeded everything there is. So, when you're going to be taro, and I don't mind getting beat on something. I've been in the construction business, been selling equipment for many years, and I don't mind getting beat. Don't like it, but you win some, you lose some. I remember one year I quoted over $100 million worth of jobs. We got $1 million that one year. So that was sort of a disappointing year. The other thing is we quoted a job, we landed the job, but from start one, there was always somebody sticking a thorn in the side all the way through. We ended up, they called the job, we were supposed to have a meeting where it was set up where my council member, some of the people from Terrell could take and go to the meeting, but they planned the meeting set on the day when y'all are in session. So everybody's here. So I get to the meeting for representation. There's nobody here, but they sent somebody up to take a few notes. And so we were set out, it was all cut and dried to begin with, because they had their plan. They didn't want us in there to start with. One of the complaints was, in the dirt work, that we was taking too long. We'd been in there 1 week. The contractor that they let have it, which was not certified at all, he'd had it in the past, took him over a month to complete the same job. We just started a week. And by the way, if you look outside what it's been doing all day, that's what we had to put up with for that week. In fact, that first month that we had the contract. So they didn't think we was moving fast enough. I know some of you in there are contractors, so you understand that you can't move everything just as fast as what it wants to be done. But they said it had to do with the way it looked. Well, I can take you by the same place today, and I can tell you the things that they were hollering about us on, the same contractor is doing the same thing, and he's been doing it all summer long, and he's still drawing the check. So, when you look at this, probably a good idea for you to table it, but you need to take a good hard look at what's going on. If you want to know more about it, there's some stuff passed out. You can talk to the Terrell people. They've got the information on it, what's going on. And I feel that if it has to do with the Indian company and they're working hard, they're doing what's supposed to be done, I feel that they should have a shot at it. If they get beat fair and square, so be it. But if they do the job, they come in with the low bid on it, and they do it to the performance and the satisfaction that needs to be done, they should get the reward. Instead of saying, well, these guys have done stuff in the past, we're going to make sure they do it. Because I still think that one job we lost, it stinks big time. And in my book, that was always said, may not be so, but something must have been sour in Denmark. Thank you for your time.
Do we have anyone else? Okay. Next we'll go under new business. Item number 1, Cherokee Nation Election Commission compensation. Councilor Frazier.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm getting there.
Chairman,
That's it. Yes.
you might
Councilor
announce
Jordan.
that there's not going to be any other comments made, I assume, on the Terrell law at this time.
Right, there will not. There will be no other comments on the Terrell law during this rest of this meeting. Yes. Because you're more than welcome to stay if you would like.
Baker, do I have the floor now?
Yes, you do.
Thank you. We received, and you have it in your packets, a letter from the Election Commission requesting a review of the present contracts in regard to their compensation. And so we asked for a chart in regard to all commissions' compensation, etc. And I think we've been provided that.
Yes.
However, I've talked with Ms. Knight about some principles governing all commissions to kind of, I guess you'd say, level the playing field, more or less. And if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to yield to Ms. Knight to explain where you are on drafting those principles, and perhaps we may want to table this depending on what she has to say.
Okay. Ms. Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Councilor Fraley mentioned, Speaker Fraley, we've talked about developing consistent principles that would be applied across the board. It seems that compensation has sort of been determined ad hoc. Some are in legislation, some are not, some are just budgeted and determined by the Board or Commission itself. And there probably should be some variance in compensation depending on the level of work, the type of work, and the risk that's involved. the time commitment for those boards or commissioners, and those sorts of things, the number of staff that are involved in that board and commission. So what we'd like to do is draft a number of principles for your consideration that we might apply to not just the election commission, but to all the boards and commissions.
Thank you.
Ms. Knight, would you, I'm sure you wouldn't, but would you object to one or two council people helping draft those principles?
That would be excellent. We have some volunteers.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I would move to table this to next month and give them a little more time, and also to include a couple of council people to help draft those principles.
Okay. Second. The motion's been made and seconded that we table it until next month and add a couple of council people to assist in the drafting of the legislation. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. One opposed. Okay. Item 2, an act related to donations and contributions from the Cherokee Nation. Councilor Watts.
Thank you. I worked closely with Melanie Knight on this, and so I was hoping, I think there's supposed to be an overview again of what we did on the budget. So I'd like to begin by yielding my time to Secretary Knight. And if I can start if I need to.
This is to explain, excuse me, this is to explain the act, right?
Yes, and I have some additional comments, but I wanted to hear from her first.
Because no motion's been made for its approval yet.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Discussion, Ms. Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just be very brief because I'm conscious of the time. I believe the councilor would like for me to sort of lay the backdrop of where this act arose from, and it was during the budget hearings, if you recall, in order to transition out of the Community Assistance Fund. There were several different programs that we recommended and that ultimately you all approved some additional funds go into, and those included the Community Youth Fund. It included starting a new adult fund that paralleled the Community Youth Fund. It included making some policy changes and directed studies, for instance, that it would no longer be limited to just the 14-county jurisdiction, but that we would open it up for anyone who wanted to come back and work at the nation, which makes a lot of sense. Sometimes we make policies and we don't think about those things. And so there was an entire list of things, and among that list was a pool of funds that would be added to the donations and contributions budget. And if you recall, it's a line itemed budget. Right now there's over $400,000 already itemized in that budget to go to various organizations like the Red Cross, like the Five Tribes Museum, and so forth. So the pool of funds is undesignated. It is presently $200,000 that's sitting there that has been reserved by appropriation by you in favor of passing some kind of authorizing legislation to govern how those allocations would be made for that pool of undesignated funds. So with that, sort of historical backdrop, the councilor may want to explain how this would work under this scenario.
And you did work with our attorney, Todd Hembry, and drafting.
Well, I did the drafting at the councilor's behest. Todd Hembry and I have had some subsequent conversations since it was submitted. One concern that he's raised is the possible unilateral rejection of a request that the subcommittee on donations may approve, but the principal chief may not approve. And so he was concerned about the appearance of a line item veto-like process. And so I do have an alternative to offer if the council wants to get into that particular issue.
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy that we're having this discussion. Another item on the agenda is my legislation that covers the similar. But are we in debate yet? Because
yes, we are.
So just to finish my opening as sponsor, may I?
Yes.
Okay, so this completes what we did during the budget hearings. This would give authorization for those monies we set aside so that we can begin looking and vetting to decide what donations and contributions we want to make on behalf of the tribe. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
But the way it will work is a subcommittee will be set up from the council
Yes.
to approve all requests.
Yes, a subcommittee of this committee would be designated, very much like the PAC subcommittee currently is, to decide whether to make allocations out of that appropriation to specific groups. As long as the subcommittee and the chief concur on those will be paid. And then ones that aren't concurred upon by either party, either the subcommittee or the principal chief, then we wouldn't have that donation made.
Motion to table.
Motion.
Second.
Been made and seconded to table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Roll call.
Jody Fishing Hawk?
Motion to table. Yes, it's to table.
Oh, yes.
Meredith Fraley?
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright? No. Don Garvin?
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.?
Yes.
Anna Glory Jordan?
Yes.
Curtis Snell?
Yes.
Chris Soap?
Nope.
David Thornton? Kara Cowan Watts?
No.
Bill Anglin?
No.
Bill John Baker?
Yes.
Jack Baker?
No.
Harley Buzzard?
No.
Julia Coates?
No.
Bradley Cobb?
No.
Joe Crittenden?
Yes.
Seven yes and 9 no.
7 yes and 9 no. Okay. So tabling motion failed.
Continuing discussion?
Yes,
Correction, 8 or 9.
Councilor Hoskin first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have concerns that this is unconstitutional because I have concerns that if you essentially give the chief an effective vote, not just a vote, but a vote more powerful than any single one of us. Can you imagine that? A legislative body allowing the chief executive to have a vote that overrides everything at the committee level. Can you imagine if the United States Congress did that, or the state legislature? It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen, and in fact, I think it's unconstitutional. And we can go down this path, and it's certainly ripe for legal challenge. Of course, the chief recently submitted a budget in which we had no funds for such actions, but I suspect there will be legal action if this is passed because I think it's unconstitutional on its face. So for that reason alone, every counselor ought to be against this. Every counselor ought to be against allowing the chief executive to have an absolute veto at the subcommittee level. I also have concerns about essentially authorizing a subcommittee to adopt principles that really ought to be handled in the statute. I don't think a subcommittee ought to be able to do that. There's no, the oversight is just the subcommittee. There's no legislative process beyond that for these very important rules which are not enumerated in this legislation to be set forth. So I think that's another reason to object to it. But Mr. Chairman, for the purposes of complying with the Constitution, I think we should vote this down. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Fisher.
I missed part of this, and help me understand something. At the subcommittee level, not at the committee level, but the subcommittee level, the chief has one vote, and the council as a whole has one vote?
Is that the question?
Yes. Somebody.
Is that correct? Is that the chief can object to our vote to approve something?
Basically, we have two people, the chief and us, and if he says no, it don't get approved.
Right, and vice versa. If the subcommittee says no, then it also doesn't get approved.
So we get, how can he sit in on the subcommittee level? How does he have a table at the council? I don't,
It is not, and I'm sorry, but I'm just addressing the question. The way I drafted the bill is not to have the chief be a part of a subcommittee or be a voting member of a subcommittee. It is that the subcommittee and the chief must concur.
Okay, so hold on, I still got the floor. I'm still confused on this. Meredith, we're level-headed, you tell it how it is. Here's the chief, here's the council. If we agree something and he don't, too bad.
So you're yielding?
Okay, so once more, yeah, I'm asking Meredith. If she's nodding her head answering these, is that okay? So, Meredith, according to the Constitution, because I've read it, how can he sit in at a subcommittee level?
She said he wasn't sitting in at the subcommittee, but indirectly he does have a sort of what you'd call a line item veto, in my opinion, because it's one particular designation of grantees. If either party rejects a proposal, the donation should not be approved for funding. To me, that's giving an indirect line item veto. So I concur with Mr. Hoskin on that particular aspect.
Here's my next question. If it is separate, if it's
Now, that's my opinion.
if it's voted on unconstitutional, who do we submit the question to? The Attorney General?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Councilor Jordan.
Well, I'm a little bit concerned. It appears that we just keep giving up more and more power that's really supposed to be with this branch of government to the chief's office. And I don't understand why everyone sits here passively and keeps doing that. I have some real qualms with this act, and I can't support it. And one of the reasons is, and once it comes out of this subcommittee, there's no further process. I mean, we just write, or they just write the check. And 17 of you all can agree that we want to do something, and then it only takes one vote from the chief to tell all 17 of us we can't do it. I mean, that is line item veto. That's what it is. It's line item veto, and it never goes to full council. And I don't understand why we would write, or who, I'm not sure who wrote this. Kara, it says Kara's the sponsor, but it appears that it's coming from Melanie Knight. I'm not sure who wrote this.
I drafted, but it was not my proposal. I drafted at the councilor's wishes.
So now we as a council go to admin to get our stuff drafted. I thought that's what we had Todd Embry for. Did I miss something here? Now we're going to admin and having them draft all of our laws instead of us doing it as a function of the legislative body? Because that's what we are, folks. We're supposed to draw the laws up. I just have a real concern with what we're doing here, and what is this supposed to apply to? Is this going to apply to everything, including the ball teams and the livestock shows, or is it only going to apply to the bigger donations?
There is one accounting unit called donations and contributions. It is the $200,000 of unallocated funds that sits in that accounting unit.
Who made the motion?
Councilor Watts.
Okay. I'm going to suggest a friendly amendment that if we have 12 or more council members that agree they want to give a donation, that the chief not be allowed to override 12 or more, which is a supermajority. Folks, there is going to be a time when all of us are going to agree on a donation, and I just don't think it's appropriate to let the chief have that line item veto. I'm saying that's a supermajority, 12, and I'm asking you to consider that as a friendly amendment.
No, and it's not because I'm opposed to it, but there needs to be more. I haven't had a chance to respond as sponsor to all the allegations and smoke in the air, so.
Well, wait, I have you down next.
Okay.
So you're refusing, okay.
Can I put that in the form of a motion that if 12 of us agree to make a donation, that cannot be overridden by the chief?
Second.
Okay.
Point of clarification, can I ask a question? You're specifying a specific number 12. That assumes, subcommittee, I think that assumes that everybody on this council, and every council in the future will be serving on that subcommittee. So I would question putting a specific number on it.
Supermajority, then, let's just say a supermajority of the subcommittee. Two-thirds of the subcommittee. Would that?
I would think about that, yeah. I mean, I think that would be...
Two-thirds, we take the number out and put two-thirds of the subcommittee.
Okay, your motion is that 2/3 of the subcommittee agree, then the chief cannot veto it. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Councilor Haas.
Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate what Councilor Jordan is trying to do. She's trying to take something that, to me, is blatantly unconstitutional and slap a little paint on it, and it still won't pass muster in my view. His vote has become a little more diluted under the councilwoman's proposal. It's still too much. I would offer a friendly amendment that it be a simple majority, but frankly, I think that's too much. He should not have a seat at this table. And to say that he's not on the committee is frankly putting form over substance. And it's my opinion that the courts of the Cherokee Nation are not going to put form over substance. They're going to say, does the executive have an effective veto at the committee level? If the answer to that is yes, then the inescapable conclusion is that this is unconstitutional. If we want to go down that route, it's going to be a costly one, and we shouldn't do it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Councilor Cobb.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Councilor Watts.
Yay, thank you. So, I am kind of amazed at how we've projected something that I don't see on face value. First of all, this is the same model we use for the PAC subcommittee. So those monies are already been allocated and approved by this body and then set aside for PAC, and we use the same exact model in the PAC subcommittee with outside concurrence from the chief where it doesn't happen. It's the same exact process, just a different fund for different reasons. I absolutely believe in these principles that are being set aside for how we should expend money, because I think that there was potential funny business going on with some of the past expenditures that simply went through without any guidelines. And that's what concerns me. I do think that here in a moment, Secretary Knight can offer some alternative language which might provide comfort. But even given the way this is set up now, the chief is not at the table, and this body always has the ability to appropriate funds, both existing funds already appropriated and reappropriate them, or find new funds and appropriate them through the regular budgeting process, which only requires a simple majority. The reason I didn't appreciate the 12 or even a 2/3, because then you could have a very small group of people with like 5, let's say, making decisions for large amounts of money, even if you did a 2/3 majority of the subcommittee. But 12 goes beyond what we really need when it could be just a simple majority that still decides and ultimately has the ability to even, then it would require, if we had to override the chief, it would require the 12 per the Constitution, but we're making it way more complicated. This legislation is what I requested, which reflects what happened and what was voted on in budget hearings. It's that simple. I appreciate that we don't want to give the appearance that we're giving up powers to the chief, but we're already doing that. If that's the case, we're doing it in the PAC subcommittee, and we need to go back and revisit that.
This is just her motion to have a 2/3 majority of the, is what we're discussing right now.
Yes, so for all those reasons, I'm not going to support that 2/3 majority, because it could mean 5 of us making big decisions in the subcommittee, and that becomes problematic. If we leave it this way, it's a simple majority of the whole body that would ultimately just do it. It would be simpler on all of us, more straightforward. But you have alternative language which would really impact that motion for the 12, right?
Well, I have a suggestion if
you don't mind.
Does this relate to the...
It does, and
Okay,
maybe it would meet somewhere in the middle.
Excuse me, are you yielding to...
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The suggestion would be to try to accommodate this issue, is that if there is a matter or donation upon which the subcommittee and the chief do not agree, then I would propose we add language that says that matter can be taken up at the ENF committee. The ENF committee passes that allocation with a majority, simple majority. Then it go forward as a budget modification, separate budget modification through the entire appropriation process. The chief could have the ability to attempt to veto that. If it's sustainable, it's sustainable. If it's not, it is not. And would go through the entire process. But that would not hold up every donation or contribution that this body might seek to make, which timeliness I know is a great concern to all of you.
Okay. But we still have the initial motion of the 2/3 majority of the committee. Is there further discussion on that item? Mr. Jordan.
I think we are headed towards litigation, but I would ask support on it, on this particular item, and then let's do our litigation later, because we're most likely going to have to live with this for a while. So it needs to be worded in a way that it's livable until we can get to court and litigate it, because I fully expect that this is going to lead to litigation.
Councilor Collins.
I'm always more optimistic than that, but I've never really gotten a good answer on this, and it does go to the 2/3. Melanie, eventually I think you're going to have to answer this. I understand that PAC committee, and I understand the real issue is we've never had an issue. But what is the mechanism of action in place if we do have an issue? I've never gotten an answer on that. I mean, what does happen if we have an issue? What is the mechanism of action right now?
Yeah, as far as I know, it's just a simple agreement that we would have to concur. So the chief has to concur, and the subcommittee has to concur. I don't think there's any agreement about what happens if that doesn't happen. The payment just simply isn't made by our own agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I withdraw. I think I've said my piece.
Okay. So, Councilor Fishing.
Mayor, just a quick and dirty answer, nothing happens. Okay. I mean, that's the, yeah, there's no. Thank you, that's all.
You want on this one? Councilor Baker.
We're sure making a lot of hard work and much to do about nothing. Most of these donations are going to be things that we all agree to day in and day out. Timeliness is extremely important. I'm not sure I know exactly why we completely went to this system to start with, and I don't really agree with it, but I tend to agree with Tina that let's get the absolute best we can do, and then if it has to be litigated, it just has to be litigated. But I've already had calls, I'm sure you've already had calls of organizations and groups that are wanting to know how do we access it. And quite frankly, I'm having to tell them a year ago I knew exactly how. Right now, I have no earthly idea how you can get your help for your ball teams, how you can get help for your community organization. We went through the budget hearings and we did a lot of talking, but there is nothing in place for anybody to get those funds. The good example is this little Halloween thing that they were having over there at the little school that burned. And because in a New York minute we would have given $100 a piece or something out of community assistance, and they could have had a grand old time and put a little sunshine in those kids that are really struggling going to churches and other places to school. But timeliness is extremely important, and people knowing. And then the other thing is, is there any timelines on here? I mean, if the subcommittee meets and we say yes, and the people here that we told them, that we're going to fund your trip or fund your air conditioning for your community building or whatever it is, then how long does the chief have to say no? And how much time are we going to waste on something like that?
And I can respond to that one. I would respond that we would handle it similar to the PAC subcommittee, that you would know at your subcommittee meeting whether the chief concurs with that particular proposal or not. So that you know at that moment that you have the committee meeting. And then the check can be cut as soon as we can prepare a check request the day after and get the check cut.
Are we contemplating having a subcommittee that can meet weekly if necessary?
I think that's up to you all.
Who's it going to be under?
I would say it would still be under E&F, but I would say
Are
it
you
would have to be
contemplating?
monthly.
Well,
But that's the way we've approved them always, monthly.
well, but we're talking about donations that the schoolhouse burns, and you have to do something pretty quick. People do not get notice that they've got this national award or got this or got that. And when we had a housing committee, we allowed them to telephone conference if they couldn't get here, and we had arrangements to where we could meet timely and not once a month, because 30 days in the life of some of these little organizations and of these immediate needs is a long time to find out that you're even going to get it, let alone have the check cut. So I would certainly hope that if this passes, that we put some language in that will allow the subcommittee to teleconference and meet in something more than a monthly basis.
Okay. Councilor Presley.
I have two questions. One is this, I'm assuming this is a first come, first served request.
This point.
Mr. Baker, you'd be getting them all.
Well, I have that problem too. That's why I would be on the committee.
Well, it's my opinion that yes, if we give all the funds away, right, if the funds are
surely y'all be
gone,
willing
then
to
we
put
would
some
have to
more
be,
in there.
then we would need to put more money in there.
And the second concern that I have, and I expressed this recently, is the power that we're giving a subcommittee. I don't think anyone on this council or administration necessarily would be dishonorable, but if we give this power to a subcommittee and the next council or the next administration is less than honorable, you've set a precedent here by giving power to the subcommittee. Well, those people, whomever they may be, may have a majority that approves appropriation for something that benefits them. It doesn't necessarily benefit the Cherokee people, all of the Cherokee people, not just their particular district. That's why I'm really struggling with this power of the subcommittee. And then I agree with Mr. Hoskin. It just, I don't think, would pass constitutional muster. Ms. Jordan, in respect for your request, I still think we're giving up too much power, even if it's a 2/3, because you still got that indirect line item veto there. So those are the reasons, and I think we've made a lot of progress, but those are my concerns and why I will not support this. And I've expressed this to the chief, and I feel like they're legitimate concerns. That's all.
Councilor Jordan.
Are we still talking about my motion?
Yes, we are.
Because it kind of sounded like he was talking about the whole
No,
thing.
but this is your motion.
I'm gonna withdraw my motion.
Councilor Fisher. Councilor Watts.
I
This
would
is on her
be,
motion.
oh, she withdrew her motion. So we're back to my main motion.
Shoot, you said you were withdrawing your motion. Oh, I thought you were withdrawing your.
Oh, yeah. Just gotta love Robert's rules.
Okay.
So,
Almost 6.
I know. So,
What do you got, a date?
I would welcome that it doesn't have to be a subcommittee, but that is what we discussed in budget hearings. And so I was trying to be reflective, be a good co-chair and close everything up, and Melanie helped me and all this. But I would welcome that if it was more palatable, we can put it back in executive and finance, that it has to be done in E&F as a whole committee. That the whole point is that these principles be adopted is more of, that's my major concern, but the subcommittee was a reflection of trying to be timely because the money had already been appropriated and the subcommittee for the PAC seemed to work. But if there's so much concern about it, we can decide in this legislation that it goes to E&F. And I would like to amend that if would you second?
Yeah.
Okay. It goes to E&F, and that's fine, as a separate deal.
Okay, it goes to
E&F, there's no separate subcommittee.
Okay. And then it will be,
Now, I haven't discussed this with anybody, so it sounds like we're concurring, but I would like to give Melanie Knight the opportunity to speak to that if that creates problems for...
but excuse me, I have a question.
Yes.
If it goes to E&F, where does the chief voice his concerns?
So that's why I'd like the representative of the chief to be able to talk about
I mean,
how that would look.
I'm not saying that he even has to, but I'm just asking the question that's in the original legislation. By the way, we're back to the original legislation, and whenever we broke off to the amendment part ago, I have Councilor Watson speaking now, then I have Councilor Cobb, Councilor Hoskin for a second time, and Councilor Baker. That's what I have now.
I guess it could happen a couple of ways. First, let me address the subcommittee versus the full committee. Since everyone theoretically could be members of the subcommittee, I'm not sure I have an issue with whether it's a subcommittee or the full committee. And it could occur a couple of different ways. Either the concurrence must occur or doesn't go forward, or I've proposed an alternative here, and if it's the full committee participating in that as opposed to a subcommittee, I don't think that there's going to be a distinction there in terms of the process, if that's the desire of this body.
Oh, and we need to accept that language, the alternative language that was passed out to G, right?
If that's your
I mean, I
wish.
think that would help clear the air. I don't know where my second went. Hold on. See if he agrees.
I have a motion.
Okay. When they come back, she's thinking, and then we'll
Yeah.
go to you for yours.
Can we not make a motion to adjourn and discuss this next round? That we can go back.
Okay.
There's not a line item of detail. The G. He says yes.
So it goes, so you amended that it goes to full E&F, but then you're adding language G
Yes.
that was passed out.
So any subcommittee reference becomes executive and finance committee reference.
And I'm recognizing Councilor Jordan with her motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I
No.
have, don't notice, we do
Orders
have
of the
that
day.
budget mod. Okay.
And it's not about
Yeah.
Okay. Motion's been made to adjourn, and it's was seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
No.
Opposed?
Aye.
Roll call.
Roll call.
I like to get this stuff.
Durbin,
Motion adjourned?
Yes.
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Hannah Gloria Jordan,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
Chris Soap,
Nope.
David Thornton, Kara Cowan Watts,
No.
Bill England, Bill John Baker,
Yep.
Jack Baker,
No.
Carly Buzzard, Julia Coates,
No.
Bradley Cobb, Joe Crittenden,
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright.
No.
We have 7 yes and 8 no.
Okay, motion to adjourn fails. Okay, so we're back to the original motion as amended. You have Councilor Cobb up, and then Councilor Hoskin and Councilor Baker.
I wasn't done.
You recognize
I
me?
recognize you
Point
for
of
that
order.
motion, was all, for a motion.
Well, put me back in line then.
I will.
Okay, I'm weaving through Robert's Rules of Order here. Somebody enlighten me. And here's an example. I can't figure out why there isn't some recommendations from admin. We see those recommendations in E&F. We either approve them or we don't. We send them back to full council. The chief either vetoes them or not. We either override the veto or we don't. I'm a little, and that may be just me, but prime example of this is I know, and I don't quite honestly remember what it was, but I know after we voted at it in PAC committee, Councilor Hoskin has raised an issue about one of the things that we had donated to. Well, there's a prime example of something that, you know, if we had passed something in committee, in E&F, and then information had become available later on, that would give Councilor Hoskin time to go to the rest of the body and basically say, here's some new information. This may be a procedural thing that I'm off base, but I don't understand why. I don't understand why it's not done that way. I don't understand. I'm sorry, I don't. And I would yield to Ms. Knight to clear that up.
And I think the answer is that that process can still take place if there's a desire to line item something in the budget mod, which you all do all the time, that goes through the regular 45 to 60 day appropriation process. I think what we're trying to accomplish here, and this is what we've heard from several counselors, and this is sort of a trade-off to the Community Assistance Fund, is having some kind of very speedy way to address some donations and contributions, particularly for events that we don't anticipate. We usually don't get 45 to 60 days to respond to, and you all allocated a specific amount of funds, which is limited, of course, unless you increase it, to allocate to those as they come.
And if I may, if I still have the floor for a moment.
Yes.
And I may have to yield to Councilor Hoskin. That's a great point, and that's why sometimes government actually works. I completely forgot about the need for speed. You know how much I respect, if you don't know how much, you do now, how much I respect what you do and your opinion, but the way this is written is a little too close for me mixing branches of government. It is. I'm having some trouble with it. If you have some suggestion for solving the need to get some of this stuff, because you know as well as I do, they'll bring stuff and go, we got this 2 days ago, we've got to either get this out or not, and I'll yield some time. If you have a way to solve that problem, I'm listening.
The way to solve that problem is the way we already have. If there is something that is so urgent that on the eve of a council meeting, or the council meeting, the administration says we need to do, not only could we do it, we have done it. There's a mechanism for that. In my experience with community assistance, the process has been speedy enough. I don't know about the rest of my colleagues on the council, but I have not gotten a lot of complaints about the lack of speed with community assistance. In fact, it's just the opposite. It's an appreciation for how quickly they act. Most folks, when they need funds, or if they planned it right, and if they haven't, if they're coming to us at the 11th hour, that might be an indication of the worthiness of the project. But most of the requests in District 9, I'm sure this is true across Cherokee Nation, are done in a timely manner, and they can wait for that month, 60 days. So I don't have any recommendation other than to use what we already have. The issue here is whether these funds that we've already discussed in the budget process ought to be shortcutted and ought to have the executive branch have a seat at the table. And even under the Secretary's language, which I appreciate, it does go a ways, it's not far enough, because the principal chief still has too much of a seat at the table. It still places an unnecessary burden on the legislative branch to have to jump through a hoop because the chief said we ought to jump. I don't think we have to do that. And I've yet to hear a cogent explanation from the administration as to why the community assistance program didn't work. Now, I've heard speed as an issue, but again, I've never, ever heard an issue from the community assistance projects we funded that we weren't fast enough. In fact, I've rarely seen this council say no to the administration when it comes with any legislation at the 11th hour. I've not seen a majority of us say no, so I don't think that's a problem. What concerns me here is that this comes down to an issue of power. Frankly, I think that's what it's always been about. If it wasn't about power, why in the world would the chief of the Cherokee Nation call it a slush fund? That's what I think this boils down to. So I think this idea that we have to act so quickly is really just window dressing, with all due respect.
Can I respond to that?
Well, Councilor Cobb still has...
I yield back to Councilor Cobb.
I just want to respond to a couple of things. One was the comment about forcing the council to go through hoops. Well, respectfully, the hoops that, if you want to call them that I'm proposing here, are simply the appropriation process that exists right now that takes 45 to 60 days. It just would require those to go through the entire process and not require the ones that everyone agrees to go through that same process. As far as speed, essentially that was a negotiating point and very important to many of you when we talked about transitioning away from the Community Assistance Fund, that it needed to be responsive, it needed to be something that we could respond to requests quickly, and so that was one of the primary points that in fashioning something as a solution that we wanted to address, and we wanted it to be speedier than 45 to 60 days.
Would Councilor Cobb yield for me to respond, if that's correct?
It's okay with the chair, I will.
We only have a couple of minutes left of your time.
Your call.
Okay. I don't recall being involved in a negotiation. I know there were negotiations. I don't recall being involved in them or having any public notice of those negotiations. But I will say this, there's been no history on this council of complaints about community assistance being too slow. I stand by that, and I challenge anyone to tell me I'm wrong about that on any single project. And I challenge any of you in this room, including the Secretary, to tell me a time when the administration came to us after time limits had passed, asked us to do something, and we didn't do it. The fact is it hadn't happened. The fact is we can do these speedy requests if need be. But community assistance was never broke. It was never broke. And we ought to return to it as best we can. Now, if the concern is that there's not enough oversight, we can do that. We can slow the process down just a little bit. Just a little bit. We can allow for more public notice of these applications. We can allow more time for the administration to respond to specific applications rather than applications come in during a meeting. I can see how the administration may feel blindsided by that. This goes too far. This goes too far, and I think we should defeat it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And now for your second time to speak.
Yes, I do. I would offer a friendly amendment that we strike from paragraph 5E, the second sentence. Any organization may only receive funds under this appropriation once per fiscal year. And rather leave it up to the judgment of the committee to determine whether an organization has received more than its fair share. Because the fact of the matter is they may receive a small amount and they may have some other need later in the year. I just think that's too burdensome.
Okay, you're offering that as a friendly amendment?
Yes, and then I have another motion.
I would accept some compromise language on that they would have a burden of proof on why they would need a second.
That's fine. I appreciate that. No organization may receive funds more than once without showing good cause to the Executive Finance Committee.
Yes.
Will the second accept that?
Yes.
Okay. And you have another?
I do. I have a friendly amendment that appropriations for, and I may need to take a bit to word this, but essentially my intent will be that funding for community assistance, as opposed to sports teams and livestock auctions, should be done on an equal basis across all Cherokee districts, all Cherokee council districts. There's no mechanism in here for equality of funding. I understand that for sports teams that may be a little difficult. In my neck of the woods, there's not going to be a lot of sports teams. There are going to be much more down here. But when it comes down to funding for community organizations, one great aspect of the community assistance fund that we had, another part that wasn't broken, is that every district got a shot at the same amount of funds. And the districts, of course, are roughly equal. We've talked about how difficult it is to make those equal, but it is a good way to delineate the funds, or to distribute the funds. So I would ask a friendly amendment that we do something in the way of equality between districts.
May I have an opportunity just to
Okay,
talk
well,
for a
he's
moment?
asking you first.
Well,
as a friendly.
I can't accept because it's not specific language, so it's hard for me to accept. It's not that I'm opposed to it.
Okay.
Let me take a stab at it.
Okay.
Any awards under this act, with the exception of adult assistance, youth assistance, ball teams, livestock.
But the ball teams and livestock are separate.
Okay, they're separate. Okay, that's fine.
I'd really like the opportunity to respond because I think that we're in a
Excuse me,
place.
Are you finished with your language?
Yeah, and I would appreciate your response because it may yield some.
Yeah, and this was, I was simply trying to bring forward what I felt happened in our budget hearings. So I think that there's some very good points that you brought forward. I'd like the opportunity. What I'm going to do but as soon as I make this motion, then there's no debate really, because I'd like to make a motion in a moment to table this item, the next item, and then move to act on the budget mod. But before I do that, I would like to take and table those two to the next meeting so that we have an opportunity to work with some of the folks by phone and by email to come up with some compromise language that still gets us to a better place. Because I think we need to re-educate on what happened in the budget hearings. Because we set up separate programs for the kids and the livestock, the sports teams, and we're trying to mix those back into this, and that has nothing to do with this. And I think there's some opportunity to fine-tune the language, and we would need to work, again, with Secretary Knight if they're going to administer those programs and make sure that we're creating a workable solution.
The councilwoman yield before she makes her motion.
Yes.
And I misspoke about the livestock and the sports team. I just wanted to make sure it was understood that I'm not trying to get equality among that funding. What happened in the budget hearings does not have the force of law as far as I'm concerned. We didn't pass enabling legislation during the budget hearings. And we're not going to be held accountable for every utterance from every council member and the chief as he walked in the room and his representatives. Our obligation is to pass enabling legislation, and we can look at that anew. In my opinion, we're not handcuffed to what happened during the budget process. If the chief disagrees for policy reasons, he can veto it. But we're not going to be handcuffed, in my opinion, to what happened during the budget process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So I'm not opposed to any of that, but regardless, if I would like the opportunity to work with you as chair, me as co-chair, try to figure out how to work through this and have some acceptable, I would hope somewhat acceptable, so maybe less debates needed on the floor. and work out some deal between now and then. So I'd like to motion to table both these items till the next meeting and move immediately on the budget mods so we may adjourn.
Call for division of the question. I want to talk about the second one. I don't care if we table this one, but I want to
Well,
talk about the
but the
second one.
motion's been made the way it is.
Division of the question, it's
Okay.
two parts.
Okay. So first we'll vote on item 2, to table.
Just divide them all and we'll table, move.
All those in favor of tabling item 2, signify by saying aye.
Yeah.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay. Next is the motion to table item 3. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
So roll call.
Janelle Fulbright.
Yes.
Don Garvin.
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.
Yes.
China Gloria Jordan.
No.
Curtis Snell.
Yes.
Chris Soap.
No.
Kara Callan Watts.
Yes.
Bill England.
Yes.
Bill John Baker.
No.
Jack Baker.
Yes.
Carly Buzzard. Julia Coates.
Yes.
Bradley Cobb.
Yes.
Joe Crittenden.
No.
Jody Fishing Hawk.
No.
Meredith Fraley.
Yes.
We have 10 yes and 5 no.
10 yes and 5 no, so item 3 is tabled. Next is item 4, which is the budget model.
And the motion to move.
Second.
Call for question.
Okay. Budget mod, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
So,
One opposed.
just for a clarification, is it going to be another month before we can fund the ball teams? We've got them coming over here every day.
I think the ball teams are separate legislation.
Well, they were that second legislation that y'all just tabled. And so we're going to go another month without funding them.
Okay. Are there any announcements?
I can add clarification.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Aye. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We are adjourned, and I appreciate everyone's attendance.
Yes, always straighten